I gotta pee.
Do you? Because that would have been a really unfortunate start to this. Anyway, we're caught in the simulation. Alex, would you like me to clap twice so we can sync audio and video or no? We'll do it anyway. You can do it, Ryan. You can do it. Thank you. That's why they pay the big bucks, because you're producer and an entertainer.
That's right.
Before I introduce my guest on my right, camera left, who is engineering the episode today? Give us a shout, man.
Alex.
That's all you got for us, man.
What's up, Alex?
You want to give us a little background or something?
Middle name, maybe nicknames.
Alex,
What you got?
Alex Chris, Alex Deeps, Alex Deep Fury.
Okay. Thank you, Alex.
You guys kind of do look.
Do you think we were brothers when you saw?
Are you brothers?
Do you
I
think
know you're brothers.
Well, he's actually from the East Coast. This guy.
Is he?
Connecticut.
Nice. All right, Red Sox, Connecticut, or Yankees, Connecticut? There we go.
You're a big Sox fan, huh?
Yeah, huge Sox fan.
Bigger Pats fan or Sox fan?
Sox.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I love all Boston sports. I have two little boys, and they're like, "This is unfair. You're making me be a Boston sports guy out in LA." They go to school out in the Valley, and they're like just obliterated on a daily basis because I put them in Red Sox gear going to school.
I feel like there's a good mix of people, like, in terms of their preferences on teams out here, though. LA fans aren't really like fucking diehard fans.
They could care less. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of LA fans who are pretty diehard, but for the most part, a lot of bandwagon stuff. A lot of like, did we make it to the playoffs? Then I'll be interested. In Boston, I feel like opening day is as big as like,
I don't know. Playoff baseball is pretty intense, though.
Oh, it's fantastic. And when we don't make it, I mean, I get in trouble because if we lose a playoff game, I'm like depressed for a couple days.
Are you?
And nobody gets it. And I'm like, ugh. And I have a few friends out here who are like, yeah, you want to like go sit in the backyard and have a beer or something. And I'm
I think
like,
it's
yes.
very Maine. Like, Maine people love
It's all we
the Red
had.
Sox. Yeah.
It's all we
have
had.
the Sea Dogs, man. My cousin works for the Sea Dogs.
Does he really?
He does. He does all
Ah.
the sales for them.
You know, I've never been to a Sea Dogs game, but I drive by the Sea Dogs stadium, that little stadium, and I'm always like, I should just go in. They're like $20 a ticket. So, and you see some Red Sox there playing sometimes.
Yeah,
Don't
they're
you?
injured when they.
Yeah. Or they stink.
Yeah, they like make
Or
$1
they're
million
like-
bucks when like Dustin Pedroia busted his knee.
Yeah,
like,
and then
yo,
I'll be
everyone
like-
come to the game.
Go hit
I think
Portland.
Roger
up.
Clemens played there once.
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't know. It probably goes with Boston sports. It goes Red Sox, Celtics, Patriots, Bruins. But I didn't play hockey, so I didn't have an
Red
attachment.
Sox, Celtics, Patriots, Bruins.
I thought you were closing your eyes in disappointment because you were like, I can't believe you put Bruins last.
No, I just have CTE, so it's how I process things.
Wait, you have what?
CTE?
Oh, you do?
No, I don't.
Oh, I was like, I'll believe anything today. If somebody's like, I'm sorry, I have amnesia. I
I'm
don't
so
remember.
sorry, man. Actually, one of our producers has vertigo, and he told me that. I had known him for like 4
I have
months.
vertigo.
Do you really?
Yeah, if I go up to a top of a building or something, I can't balance if I'm looking down to it. Like, I'll start to spin.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
When
It's
was
not
it-
fun.
When was the first time you had an epiphany that you're
I remember in like 6th grade, we had to go to this this adventure camp. They send you off, like every 6th grade class from my school in Maine. They send you off and they're like, you're going to do all this wacky shit. And
Is it like sergeant camp?
I don't know what that is.
What, it's like you were doing like ropes courses in the woods and shit like that.
Yeah, it's like an adventure
Yeah,
camp,
got
and
it.
you sleep in tents.
Got it.
You have to like bury your own shit. Like
Yeah.
it was very bizarre and weird. And you're with like, you're just starting to hit that part of your life where you're having crushes on girls, and you're like, I gotta go dig a hole and shit in a hole.
I'll be right back.
I'll be back, but I got a crush on you. But I remember we had to cross a gully, like a serious 100-foot, 200. I don't even remember. At the time, it felt like a mile down, and there was one rope, and you had to click yourself in and pull yourself across. And this woman, no joke, her name was Rambo. I got out to the middle of it.
Type.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. And I got into the middle of it and I looked down and I remember spinning. And that's the first time I was like, yeah, I'm not great with heights. I would have trouble if I get scared if people I ever like try to do a commercial or something. They're like, you're gonna be up 100 feet in the air, and I'm like, maybe I'll do a little passeroo on this one.
But what if it's like 100K?
Shoot for the next one. I've done it I've done it. I remember I had to be duct taped to a telephone pole at the top and give like some sort of weird speech for Microsoft. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever done because I was like, I'm not in a good place.
So did you get this like clinically diagnosed?
No,
Okay.
no, I just know my doctor when I'm like, why does that happen? He was like, you have vertigo. You have like your ears go, you have a weird,
Balance in your ears.
yeah, something's off and you panic and it's probably a mix of phobia and vertigo, which is great and really fun.
You know Canopy Lake Park in New Hampshire?
Yeah.
So did you ever do the Turkish twist on that thing?
No.
That'd probably throw you all out of whack.
No, I can't. If
No
I
roller
go
coasters,
to,
none of that.
I'll do a roller coaster, but I tell everybody, I'm like, I got like one or two in me, and then I'm kind of screwed up for the day. So, because I remember going on the Hulk at Universal,
Hmm.
and my friend was like, it's not that bad. It's pretty smooth. And I was like, I don't know. And I can go on at like 8 in the morning and do the Hulk, and then I just feel off the whole day. It's pretty weird. It's not great. Don't do it. If you can avoid it, don't get vertigo. I don't even know if it's actually vertigo. I should say
You
that.
sound swag when you say it though. Like
Yeah, I got vertigo, dog.
What was the movie Vertigo? Who's in that? Wait, actually,
Hitchcock?
before we move on, sorry to cut you off. It was Hitchcock. Yeah, you're right. On my right, camera left, I have an incredibly funny and witty entertainer who I saw at the Groundlings. Is it 1967 or 69?
1969
Of 1969 show.
tonight. Although I don't know when this.
I was wearing a mask the whole time, but I was laughing through the mask.
That's great.
And
That's good.
my friends were laughing. The woman next to me was laughing. And guest name is Ryan Gaul.
Brian Gaul. That's my name.
Thanks, man.
A friend from the East Coast, a friend from the Boston
A brethren.
and Maine area. Yeah.
Oh, so when you came out here initially, were you telling people you were from Boston?
No, I'm usually pretty like I wait for people to be like, where are you from? And I'll be like, New England. And if they push further, I'll be like, it's Maine. But if they're like, where's that? I'll be like, it's just Boston. Don't worry about it. It's Boston. But then some people will be like, I'm from Boston. Where? And I'm like, I'm from Maine. They're like, stop doing that. Stop telling people you're from Boston if you're not from Boston. And I'm like, no, I do it out of convenience. Because if you say Maine, I remember
What the fuck is Maine, man?
I had a guy when I first moved here, it was like 2005. I was in the Bally's. That's how long ago it was. Bally's was still a gym. And I was working out and this guy I had a Maine license plate. Because even when I was in Boston, I had Maine license plates to save some cash
Got
on
it.
because it's like $4 a year to
Yeah,
have
I'm not doing
insurance
that
in
out
Maine.
here.
No, it's not. You can't do it anymore because the
Just kidding,
cops
I
are.
am, but keep going.
Are you? Oh yeah. I mean,
Registered Mark
whatever
Vineyard,
works.
brother.
Are you really?
No,
That's I
I'm
mean, not, but it's all right. But the guy goes, where? He goes, Maine, and I go, yeah, I grew up in Maine. He goes, I love Canada,
really.
and I didn't even correct him. I was like, yeah, it's great up there. It's great. But people sometimes go like, I can't even point to Maine on a map.
Outside of Alaska and Hawaii, I mean, this makes sense geographically. It's normally, if someone wants to visit all 50 states, it's normally the last place they visit.
Yeah, there's not there. It's like they call it vacation land, though, right?
Acadia, how far were you from Acadia growing up?
3 hours, pretty
Yeah.
far. Cadillac Mountain, yeah, pretty far.
It was a small town you grew up in, right? I was looking it up. It was, what was it called? Like
Dameron-
Albatross? Something like that?
It was Albatross, Maine.
Okay.
No, Dameriscotta, Maine.
Dameriscotta.
Dameriscotta. It means river of little fishes,
Really?
and it
What
was
was that
like
like?
2,000 people. I mean, not a lot of people there. Not a lot of things to do. We were like a cliche small town out of a Stephen King movie or something, where on Friday nights, I'd you know go around playing mailbox baseball or something. Or we used to fill pumpkins. We're near LL Bean. Like, do you
Yeah,
know
yeah,
LL Bean?
of course.
LL Bean was like a hunting and camping store. So we would go there and buy. You could buy um, gunpowder, like big cans of gunpowder for whatever reason. And we would cut open a pumpkin and just pack it with gunpowder, put a wick in, and then glue it shut. And then we would go and put those in people's mailboxes and light them and drive off for no reason other than to watch uh, a
Just want to
mail.
see the world burn.
Just at that age, you're like,
Frustrated.
yeah,
How old are you at this point? Like 27?
yeah. This is when I was 35.
This is last year.
No, this is like 16, 16, 17, maybe 15.
And do you just have the same
Maybe
group
8.
of friends growing up? Like,
Yeah, I mean, you didn't have much of a choice when there's 2,000 people in the town. I mean, my graduating class was 125 people,
holy shit.
but it's 125 people, but it was like 8 towns. That's
It was regional.
8 towns. So it's like if you took all the people from my town, it was like 9 people graduating in my town.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not a big city.
So did you have the inkling to become like an actor and entertainer back then? Must
Yeah,
have been weird if you're just not surrounded by anyone who's ever done it.
no, I didn't. I remember like I auditioned for like school plays and didn't know what was I was not good at it. I remember I got put in the chorus of a Shakespeare play or something, and I was like,
Othello.
and I was like offended. No, it was Midsummer,
Oh, true,
Midsummer's,
yeah.
and I was like a guard or something with no lines. And I had to go to all the rehearsals. I had to go to all the all the shows just to sit there with like a spear and not do anything. And I remember even at that point being like,
This is not for me.
they're not. No, I was like, this is for me, and they're not using me right. I should be the lead. I had this weird, like, I knew I could do it.
Hmm.
I didn't show them the right way that I could do it. So that was the learning curve for me to be like, all right, what am I doing wrong that they're not getting that I have the confidence I can do this, or am I not good enough? Which didn't hit me until like a couple days ago.
Okay.
No, when I went to college is really where I like auditioned and I
Stonehill.
started to click a little bit more and be like, oh, okay, I get it. I gotta, you know, there's that moment where you go like, oh, acting is not like, it's not as hard as you think. It's just you have to you have to have a certain level of maturity to be able to act, and I didn't have it at that point. That's
What
why
do you mean by a certain level of maturity?
I just think you have to. Maybe it's life experience. Maybe it's the confidence to be a little bit older, to have the confidence to like look somebody in the eye and act out a moment for real.
Yeah.
Sometimes that makes a lot of people, not sometimes, a lot of the times that makes people really uncomfortable. And that's what if you ask a lot of non-actors to look you in the eye and read a scene with you, they're going to have trouble with that. They're going to be very uncomfortable. They're going to so it takes practice.
I was
I
gonna say
think.
it's just a result of you getting the reps in over time. Yeah.
I think so. And then a ton of luck.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to do it as a job, and a ton of hustle, and and being willing to do it over and over and over, and know that sometimes you're going to be doing it exactly the right way, and in exactly the right way for you, and it's still not going to lead to any formal success.
So you get out of Maine and then you're like, all right, I'm just gonna go to school in Boston. And
Yeah.
And so what's like your comedy entertainment background? There.
Well, I didn't do any comedy in college. I feel like every play I did, I had a director who was picking the most dismal, weird, eccentric dramas you could imagine. Um,
And you wanted to do comedy.
I didn't know. I remember when we graduated, she would pull us in the office and have this like one-on-one with us, and she was like, "You might be able to go to LA and do soap operas." And she was like, "You might." And I was like, "I don't want to do soap operas."
Sounds ass.
Yeah. So, and I was like, I don't want to do that. And she was like, well, you're not made for the stage. She was horrible. And
You're
I
like,
was like,
fuck you, you
but
dumb
she
bitch.
drew, yeah, I really was like driven by her being like, you can't fucking do this. And I was like, I bet you I can give it a good run.
You should send her the trailer for the Last O.G.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's funny because Stonehill, where I went to school, they did an interview with me at some point, like in season 2 when I was doing the Last O.G. And I was like, I hope she reads this, and I hope she remember. I
It's
hope
like
she,
a
and I hope she
psycho.
remembers. I hope she remembers telling me that I couldn't like, And it's not like I look at the Last O.G. and think like, ooh, I'm gonna get Emmys for this, but the fact that I I persevered and came out to LA and worked my ass off, and did something and made a living doing it. I'm like, you, she could have been on the other end of that. She could have said like, go for it, Ryan. Like, go for it. Why not? If this is what you have in your belly, if that's the fire in your belly, go fucking get it.
Hmm.
And she didn't. So fuck her.
Well, I think
Patricia Sankis, if
oh,
you're out there.
oh God, it's tattooed on your brain. You know
Yeah,
exactly who she is.
Patricia Sankis.
I've had moments like that too. I think people are motivated differently. I think some people are motivated by positive reinforcement, but in your case, do you think it's mostly negativity?
Sometimes, yeah, I bet you it's a good mix. Sometimes I like being told like you can't do this, and I'm like, all right, yeah, I think I
We'll
can.
see.
Yeah, I'd like to see if I could. I used to wrestle in high school, and I showed up more for the better wrestlers than I did for the guys that like had a 2-12 record or
Yeah,
something. I'd be like a little
chip
lazy.
on your shoulder type thing.
Yeah, but if somebody was like undefeated, I'd be like,
It's time to go.
yeah, let's let's see let's see how long I can last.
Now, has that served you out here, you think? Like
Yeah,
being hard nosed?
for sure. Because even when I first came out here and I was doing commercial auditions or something, I just thought of I used to think of it as like I'm not getting this job, but I know this is statistically, I know if I do a good job and I push forward and wait for that next audition and I keep training and I work at the Groundlings and I do my shows and I get my reps in, I know statistically it's not 100%, but I know I have a good chance of something breaking at some point. And that's all I have to do is keep going. I just kept that as my mantra, like just don't stop.
Hmm.
Let everybody else quit. Let everybody
The
else quit.
marathon.
Yeah, and know that like there'll be parts for me. I just have to. I had an acting coach once who was like, if you keep working and you keep, you know, studying, and you hit your auditions and you put effort into them, there are jobs already headed towards you in the universe. It sounds kind of like cheesy, but they're headed towards you. Successes are headed towards you. So just keep going until they hit
They
you.
hit you.
Yeah, they're already on their way.
What was
So,
that for you?
like my
Actually, no,
first job,
rewind,
or
rewind. So you go down to Stonehill, you're
yeah,
doing plays,
yeah,
and then when you were working at Improv Asylum, right?
yeah. Well, I went to when I graduated from Stonehill, I was sort of like, what am I gonna do?
I know what I want to do, but how the fuck do I get there?
Yeah, and my parents are traditional Irish Catholic Mainers in education, and they were like, yeah, maybe not acting, or
Hmm.
they were like, get a good safe job teaching, high school or something. And I thought about it. I got a job at a bank. I worked at a bank for a
Oh
year. I worked
God,
for WB
I
Mason.
saw that. What was
For
that like,
It was horrible.
dude?
I
But they're
mean,
like the Red Sox main sponsor. You must have been
I
pumped.
no, trust me. I was like the benefits and everything were great, but I woke up every day just like, are you kidding me? I'm gonna sell pencils to kind of, and my boss would uh we had those Nextels at the time, so I'd like be 7 in the morning and I'd be like chirp chirp, and
Oh
I'd
my
hear like,
God.
Ryan, where are you? And I'd be like, I'm in Medford selling, and he'd be like, what? And meanwhile I'm in bed, like. So I like I'd have to meet him, and I just remember going into I was actually in the parking lot of a Staples because once a week we had to go to Staples and compare pricing.
Which staple?
Um, Lawrence, Mass.
God, you were really going through it.
I was in
Dark
the
times
mess.
for
I
you,
was in the
man.
mess. And I know, but I sat there and I had their flyer and I'm like, and in my mind, this is where I would just taken one class at Improv Asylum. And I was like, "Whew, this got me going. That like taking a class, like being on stage in front of people, trying to make them laugh. I was like, ooh, I like this. This feels right. I don't care if I make money. And so I'm sitting in the parking lot of Staples with that running through the back of my mind, and my I don't know what came over me, but my boss, Danny Dwyer for WB Mason, who was a nice guy, but I just wasn't a good fit. And he called me and was like, "Hey, where are you?" And I was like, I quit." And I just quit right there on the spot. And he
Impulsively.
goes, "You can't just quit. You got to give us notice." And I was like, "Nah, I think I got to just be done." And he was like, "Well, we need all our stuff back." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll get it back to you. That's not a problem." And I went the next day and got a waiting job because I knew that actors wait tables to make money. And then I went full blast into Improv Asylum, like trying to perform and get on the stage there. And all in my mind, I always knew like, well, I'm going to have to move from Boston at some point. But it took some time to get the confidence to go and make that leap. So I
Hmm.
don't know how you feel, but while I was in Boston, LA felt like a giant to me that I was like, do I have the balls to do that? Do I have the balls to succeed in a place like LA? And eventually I was like, well, there's only one way to find out.
I have been noticing out here that you can tell if someone's from the East Coast right away.
Can you?
Absolutely.
What is it?
Well, with you, I can tell you were Irish before I met you,
Yeah, I am.
just because of your name.
Yeah,
But then
that's
when we
right.
talked, I was like, all right, this dude seems
Most
kind of
people think I'm French because of
really.
Gaul.
I,
Yeah, but
no, Gaul sounds Irish.
yeah. Well, they think of like Gaul, the land of the emperor, the empire of Gaul. But Gaul. We're Galway.
I was gonna say that
Yeah,
Galway.
yeah.
And Danny Dwyer is definitely Irish.
Danny Dwyer was Irish. He was a badass. He was
Was
not
he?
a. Yeah,
The
he
scary boss.
he kicked my ass a few times.
Did he?
Yeah, he wasn't. I was very happy to say goodbye to him and turn in my Nextel. I was
Boom.
like,
Chirp.
yeah, bye bye. That was the last chirp. But you can tell people.
Right away. I think people are a little more not not abrasive in a bad way, but like abrasive.
Yeah, no, I always say like on when I came to the West Coast at first, people would hold doors and be like, "Hi, and welcome."
Like,
And
what
in
the
the back
fuck
of
do
the
you want from me,
mind, yeah,
motherfucker?
that's it. It's like, what are you looking for? What do you think what do you think I have? And on the East Coast, you're on the subway or something, and you just look at somebody, and you're either like, what the fuck are you looking at, or it's like, you need something, and then usually it's like, nah, I'm good. All right, I'm good too, dude.
Don't fucking look at me.
But it's like what you see is what you get a
Mm-hmm.
little more. I mean, and out here, it's like you don't know what you're getting because
No clue.
everybody's angling out here.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's angling. And
See,
that
but
kind of sucks sometimes.
I don't know. Has this served you though? Just making your intentions very well known right away.
Sure.
Because I think people are like, what's the word? Naturally hesitant when they meet new people because there's a level of trust that people are like, you shouldn't really trust everyone. But if you just make your intentions known right away, has that served you?
Sure. I mean, it's like, it's probably served me and it's probably also like ruined things for me because some people don't always react well to that if you're too aggressive. Um, but I've always just said like, I am who I am. You'll never, but I've gone through the Groundlings or I've, done any acting job. I'm like, if I'm in a mood, on a job someday where I don't want to eat lunch with anybody, I'm just going to say, like, I want to eat lunch alone. And they'll be like, no, come eat it with people. And I'm like, not in the mood, man. I'm going to eat lunch alone. And I'm not antisocial. I just got,
I just
got
want a
some,
minute.
yeah.
I just want to eat my
Sometimes,
mac and cheese, bro.
and sometimes people are like, yeah, like you gotta get out there, Ryan. You gotta like network
Socialize.
and and I understand but I'm just not good at it. I'm not a good networker.
We're networking right now, man. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, man.
Sure.
That makes me feel better. I'm not the worst at it, but yeah. But natural, like natural meetings, or like you asking me to come and do a podcast, and you're working and you're hustling, and I'm like, yeah, you've been completely, you know, respectful and a
Persistent.
good persistent, but a good, like, not overkill. You've just been like, I want to do this, and I haven't said like no. So you've just been like, hey, following up,
You said like, yo, bro, my fucking flight is delayed.
exactly, exactly. But there's, I don't like the, like, I'll give you an example of being on a shoot a few weeks ago where a mother of a like 4-year-old girl was getting mad at the 4-year-old girl because she wasn't handing out her business cards. The 4-year-old girl wasn't handing out her business cards. And I was like, God, that's a 4-year-old that's a 4-year-old girl that a mother is getting upset with because she's not pushing her career at 4 years. I couldn't take it in. Like, it's one thing to hustle when you've decided, like, this is going to be my career, and I'm going to try to meet as many people as I want and authentically meet as many people. Like, you're not putting up a facade or anything. You do this podcast. I watch some of your podcasts, and they all seem like, yeah, you're just chatting with people. I respect that, but there are people out there that, like we talked about, that have ulterior motives, and it feels fake.
Yo, that girl is done for.
I mean, honestly, I said that to a few people. I was like, she's screwed. If 4 years old, she's being trained, like, I gotta hand out my business. I have one. Oh, I wish I had it with me. She handed one to me. She had to, like, her mother was like, go give one to him. And I was like, thanks for your business card, 4-year-old girl. What am I going to do, like, with a 4-year-old's business card, other than maybe be arrested if somebody pulls me over? It's like, why are you carrying around a 4-year-old's business card? It's like, I don't know, networking. We're going out Friday night. But yeah, it's a weird world out here, and it's very different.
It's a lottery. It's either that girl is going to turn into like the next Tiger Woods and just be dominant in the industry, or like,
oh no,
I don't want to shit on somebody, but just a nightmare child star.
Yeah, I see it so much with kids where I'm like, parents are living vicariously through them and trying to be like, I gotta have my kid. Like, it'll be like 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, and I'll see an 8-year-old at a commercial audition doing math homework, and I'm like, take your fucking kid home and let it be a kid, and stop pushing it to a Sears commercial where that kid doesn't give a shit whether it does a commercial or not. What are you really doing? Like, what are you really doing here? You're pushing your kid down a road that it probably doesn't see the value of. It's and teaching it that, like, to have like, making money in commercials is more important than actually just living as a child and playing, and that stuff gets me fired up.
How old are your kids?
8 and 11.
I mean, as a parent though, I don't have any kids.
You want some?
I do, but I'd like to be like sitting on $100 million from like 50,
yeah,
and then have the kids. You know what I'm saying?
I hear you.
But how do you, like, place a kid in a conducive environment to get good at stuff without pushing it down their throat? Because there's a way to do it. Like, how do you get kids around sports? Not really like shove it down their throat, but like, you still want them to go D1. You know what I'm saying?
Totally. No, my two boys love baseball.
And
clearly,
you're pumped about that.
Clearly. No, they're better than me. They're like, my 11-year-old can. No, I'm not good. I mean, I could, if we had like a league or something, you'd be like, maybe put him in left field.
I'd be like, this dude's going a little too hard.
Yeah. Like, but I've got a pretty good arm. Pretty good arm. But my guys are like in serious leagues. They're playing all-stars all weekend. They're like, I'm watching them. I'm like, oh, these guys are pretty solid, but they love it. And if they don't love it, I'd be like, don't do it. But I also
But you
say
don't want them to be soft too.
no, and I tell them, I'm like, if you're not doing this, you got to pick something to do. You got to pick something else, take a chance on something else. Like you're always trying new things because you're gonna find the things you love. And it took them a while. Like my oldest kid played hockey for like the first 3 years of his life, and then he was like, I don't really like it, Dad. And I was like, well, you don't play hockey, but what else do you want to play? You want to play basketball? You want to play baseball? You want to play soccer? But something every season. But they really are like loving baseball. They love baseball and they love those Red Sox.
And you're pumped about that.
I do love that they love the Red Sox, and they're not ashamed to say it in front of all their Dodger and Anaheim friends.
I'm gonna sound pretty ignorant, but are the Red Sox doing good this year?
No, they're okay. They're
They always
coming on right
swing
now.
it. They always swing it better.
Yankees are unbelievable this year.
They're dominant.
Yeah, not that this is a sports podcast, but the Yankees are absolutely dominating the entire major leagues right now.
I
And
did have I
hate
had the
that.
CMO of the Red Sox on the podcast once back
The-
in Boston.
Did you really?
I did. Nice guy.
Yeah.
And he was saying he was in the video intern for the 2004 World Series, and he was like, "Dude, it was like a Disney movie."
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
You'd get chills if you listened to it.
Oh, I still go back and watch the YouTube, like
you?
it like
The
the
cartoon
compilation of the whole series where they went down. I mean, I was at
It was
that
a
was
wild
the,
time.
that was the first year I was out here,
Really?
and I sat on a very shitty apartment floor in Game 4. I don't know how much you remember. You were probably like 2 years old, but Game 4 of that was the first one they won, and I ordered a Papa John's large pizza with jalapenos and chicken for some reason.
Where are you in LA?
I'm in Venice.
Okay.
So I'm sitting on this part and I watch them and they win. And I go, oh shit. And this is who I am. The next night they're playing again, or 2 nights later. Every game I sat in the same place and I ordered the same pizza. So they won again. I'm like, oh shit.
They won 4-0, right?
Yeah, they won 4 in a row to take the whole thing.
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, but I got 4 of those pizzas.
You finished the whole thing every time.
The delivery guy knew me by the end, and he was like, "What's going on, man? You okay?"
You're like, I'm going through it.
I'm like,
man.
"Listen, just give me the pizza, dude.
Shut
I
up,
got
dude.
5 minutes till the first pitch." But yeah, that's crazy. I agree with you though. I don't want them to be soft, and I also don't want, like, in terms of theater, or I go, if you guys want to act, if you want to get into video production, if that's something, and they take improv at their school.
Nice.
But I'm like, do it because you love it at this age. Like that way, like you don't associate it with money yet. So I think that's a downfall. I think too, when a kid is like, ooh, I'm banking cash, and some of these kids are making a lot of money at really young ages.
Doing
and-
Twitch, YouTube.
Yeah. Or, get on a sitcom, or get on like all of a sudden they're making $500,000,
Jeez.
in a year. And I'm sure most of them don't even know they're making that, but that's a weird thing for a kid to digest. Like,
Mhm.
as opposed to me, who, when I was a kid, I mowed lawns for $10 and was like, I'm rich. But yeah, I don't want them to, I loved when I was first doing it. I loved being on stage, and I loved performing and entertaining and making people laugh. And also, like we were talking about, failing sometimes is where you learn the most. And
The only way to learn, man.
yeah. So I don't want them to do something where it comes a little too easy. They make a ton of money, and then they're like, yeah, that was easy. I already did that.
They
I
need a
already
little
acted.
struggle, man.
Yeah. Adversity.
Now, okay, you're hustling at the Improv Asylum. Is this when you get the job at Joe's?
Yeah. Yeah. So for some reason, I had a connection with a job outside the city, and you know where Braintree is, but it's
course.
not in the city. It's like a 40-minute.
Where was
like,
Improv Asylum?
that was in the North End.
Oh, it was in the
Yeah.
North End.
So I had to go from Braintree to the North End,
Up
and I
93.
lived in the North End. So, I was like going, that was my hustle, where I was like trying to make $150 a night, like, to pay rent so that I could take classes and But when I could hit that stage, I didn't care about money. I was just like, oh, this is the
this is a
best.
bit.
This is the best. And it's like you find this little family of people, and we were like, you know, doing shows on Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday nights, and sit around after and have a beer, and you dream about like, all right, what do we want to do? Like, what's the our dream? And we'd come out to LA, a few times, and we'd just be. I remember we came out to do a showcase somewhere in like 2000 or something, and I was just like, yeah, I gotta get here. It's overwhelming. Look, like I looked at like the cityscape, and I was like, it's too much. Like this is crazy.
It's a
How,
circus.
how would I get from places to, like, I don't know the roads. I don't. You can see why everybody. You can find a million reasons not to do it, and everything tells you shouldn't. Like all the statistics, all the things that say like, well, you want to write a screenplay, they don't sell. You want to make a movie, it's probably not going to make money. You want to audition, there's 1,000 other people going for
People are
that
just
part.
negative as hell, man.
People want to push you down and say like, there's something about the human condition that where people are like, don't do it, man. Be
Well,
careful.
taking risks makes other people uncomfortable.
Yeah. My mentor in college used to say, uh, uh, you know how people go like, all right, be careful when you're like leaving a house or leaving, maybe you're saying goodbye to somebody. All right, we'll see you next time.
Mm-hmm.
Be safe out there. He used to always, he was a teacher, and we'd be leaving, and he'd be like, all right, don't wear your seatbelt and take chances. And I loved
good
it.
advice.
I loved it because he was basically saying like, don't be too careful.
Mhm.
Be people who are too careful don't ever get
They don't
where
win.
they will make him 100% happy.
Mm-hmm.
So don't be too careful. That's what I've always said. Like, no, take some chances.
So you shift out here.
Yeah.
Where do you move first, and then what's your first job here while you're trying to pick up work?
Oh man, it was so 2004, and I got an agent, a commercial agent, but as you may know, it takes a while for things to start rolling with any agent because none of the casting directors know who you are, so they're not calling you in very often. So I got a job. I was like, I got to make some money because I got to pay rent. So I got a job selling phone conferencing, and I had to get up. I had to be there at 7 a.m. in the morning. It was just deadly. And it was over on somewhere in Venice. And I'd go to this little shitty office, and I'd sit down. And I remember I sat next to maybe the fattest man in the world. Maybe he might have not even been a man. I don't know what he was, but he smelt. He was just huge, and he was so like, he was always like eating shit, and I had to sit at this place next to him and cold call businesses that they had a list, and I'd be like, hi, can I talk to you about your phone conferencing services? I never sold one ever. And they kept saying like, well, you got to be more like, you got to push a little harder.
And you're
do
like, I
that.
don't think this
And
is
I
a
was
very
like,
productive
I don't know.
environment.
And then one day I woke up and I had an audition. I remember it was a Bud Light audition, and I was like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be at work. So I call and I go like, I got this audition, and the big fat guy was like, he was like, Ryan, listen, I used to be an agent. You're not gonna, like, you're never gonna go anywhere. And again, he said, he pushed me down, and he was like, you're not, it doesn't work out like this. You're not just gonna start like booking stuff. And I was like, all right, then I quit. And I quit that job. That I never went back into that. And they sent me like a partial check, I remember, for the hours I worked.
Did you land the Bud
And
Light
I
audition?
booked that Bud Light. I booked that Bud Light commercial. And I remember going like, all right.
You should have
And
mailed him some cupcakes.
no, and when my commercial agent called me, he was like, hey, you booked Bud Light. And I was like, what does that mean? And he was like, well, you're going to shoot the Bud Light commercial. It's cool. And I go, no shit. Really? And he was like, yeah. He was like, you're gonna book stuff. Like, are you that surprised? And I was like, yeah, I guess I'm just a little, I'm happy. And he
pumped.
was like, well, he was like, get ready. Cause we're gonna go now. Like this is what happens. You booked one, well, let's keep booking. I was like, let's fucking rock. Let's
Nice.
go. Like, and
So were you a working actor from that point on? Right
yeah,
after?
I've never had a job since.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Wow. Is that the case for most people you know out here? They book one thing and then it's game on.
I don't know for sure. I know plenty of people that have had to like struggle, and I remember, who was it? Jack McBrayer from 30 Rock, when he first came out here, and he's like one of the funniest guys you could ever meet. I mean, just so naturally funny. And he was,
This is the tall blonde dude.
yeah,
Okay.
he's kind of southern
Yeah.
guy. And he was working at like some office as a temp for months, and then I was talking to him and he was like, yeah, I think like Tina Fey said she has like a part for me in a pilot she wants me to audition for. And I was like, yeah, good luck. Nobody books any pilots. That's like unheard of. And cut to like 7 years later, where he did, I don't know how many seasons of 30 Rock, but
So you
it's,
were the negative prick in that.
I would say, but isn't it crazy how I don't think I actually said that. I'm sure I said something like, dude, that's awesome. That's great. But in my mind, I remember being like, people don't book, right? Like, I think uh, we just think like,
We're programmed to be negative. I
yeah,
think most people are.
and it can be reprogrammed, I think.
You have to reprogram it.
Yes. And I think it's easier if you have a little success, you can be like, okay, let's follow that. Let's,
Momentum is insanely
yeah,
important.
yeah,
I also think if you're in a negative environment, I think that's why LA is good for a lot of people. Is because they'll leave their hometown where everyone's like, bro, this shit is never gonna happen. Then you actually get
no,
out here, you're like, yeah, wait, there are people actually out here doing it. Like,
yeah. There's people you get, and you start to go like, well, that person's no different than I am. Like
I'm way more jacked than him.
yeah, I'm huge.
I'm fucking yoked, man.
Well, I do remember early on going to commercial auditions, and sometimes they'd bring you in like 3 or 4 at a time, and I'd be like, I was at least the best out of my group. For God's sakes, that was a sad situation. But for every person that comes out here that's a little negative, there's also a ton of people who are just ultra positive
There's
and
toxic
cocky,
positive,
but they have nothing
though, to show
to,
for it.
yeah, they have nothing to back it up.
Yeah.
There's no talent. You're like, oh no, man, yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of toxic positive out here too. Have you gotten that?
Like that fake
It's
sort
like,
of
dude,
like,
life is amazing, right? Come on, let's
Listen,
get up after it. Let's go
listen, it
run 15
doesn't-
miles. Let's get it. Come on,
yeah.
man.
You're like, oh Jesus. No, there's a lot
And
of
inside,
like,
they're just like,
yeah, I
you
mean,
know?
social media has like made that very clear sometimes, where I've had to silence people because I'm like, I can't wake up to another like, you're in charge of your life and you're gonna do it. Just ride the wave, babies. And it's like a picture of a cat like going, putting his fist in the air, and
A
I'm like,
23-year-old life coach.
no, at some point I don't know if I need that. But then I'm like, is that being negative? But should I just look at that person and be like, oh, good for them. They can be, if that's serving them, at some point I have to be able to be okay with it, I guess. I don't know if I want to work with them, but I have to be okay with it, I think.
So you're out here. What's the first like big thing you land where you're like, oh fuck, I'm doing it.
Mm.
You can take your time with the sips if you'd like.
Oh, that's a good sip. It took a long time. I think like the first big thing I landed was like the thing that I thought, oh, this is going to be a big job, was a season 3 of House of Lies, where it was like, I think we did 9 or 10 episodes. And it wasn't, my part wasn't massive, but my arc kind of was woven through the arc of Don Cheadle and Josh Lawson and Ben Schwartz and Kristen Bell. So I worked with all them a lot, and it was really a moment of like, oh, these, like, it was my first experience on set where I was like, this is what TV can be. And they were all having so much fun, and they worked really hard, and they were so good at what they did because they they took it seriously to hear, and then they were able to have fun to a certain level after that. And I was like, oh, that's how you succeed. You like you come to your job prepared. They were always prepared, and they were also able to play around. And I was like, that's what I want. That I would kill for that. I still will kill for that. I'll kill anybody for that. um that was in 2000. I'm gonna say it was like 2012 or
So you're already
something.
like 8. You're 8 years in the game.
Yeah. Like up until that point, I probably had survived mostly off of commercials. But I mean, I did a fair amount of commercials, and I was like, maybe I'm just gonna be a guy who does commercials. But
Would you have been cool with that?
would have, and I always will still like push for more. You know,
Mhm.
but I would have. I've I told my wife when we got married, I was like, you have to know I'll die penniless doing this because I can't do anything else. I can't. And I think there are certain people out there who go like, all you have to do is like, I know this is for me and I know I'm going to succeed. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to succeed, but I do know this is only
The only option.
thing I can do.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to have to, like, it's my best bet to go with what I think I'm good at. I still may die penniless,
Yeah.
but I'm going to go for it. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
I don't want
It's
to.
worked out thus far, man. Right?
So far, so far. Well, we'll see. But I'm, I like being surprised. I like being like not knowing what's next. A lot of people always say, like, I'll go home and they'll be like, what do you do? Like, what do you do out there on a daily basis? Like, and you know,
Well, I'm sure the Groundlings is a nice structure for you, right? Because that's just like set a schedule and
sort of, yeah, it's been a really good home base, and I feel bad for an actor. I don't feel bad for actors who don't have a home base, but I think it's got to be much harder and more solitary to not have sort of a family of people who you can lean on and relate to in terms of like, maybe I'm going through a dry spell. I can go do some shows at the Groundlings, and that really can pump me up and get my creative juices flowing. There's people I've met that I write with. There's, I can jump into a show at any time if I call it my therapy sometimes because I'm like, I can put everything else aside, just get on that stage and go. Um,
I told you I love that the set with you and the two horny twin sisters.
oh yeah,
You're like, yo, get me a Sprite. Like, okay, fine. What's your character's name? Derek?
I don't even remember. Like, it might have been, yeah, Derek.
Like, give me a Sprite.
Give me a Sprite. Yeah, from true experience. But the Groundlings is the giants who have been on that stage before me. I never go on that stage without trying to remember how honored I am to even have an opportunity to step foot on that stage, let alone call it a home or a second home.
It was incredibly well produced too. It was the first show I'd seen like that. Like
Yeah.
directed, produced, the music,
Yeah.
seamless production.
Yeah, it's really they take it pretty seriously as a like a show. So you can go to a lot of sketch shows or improv shows in LA and be like, yeah, there's talent here, but
But this isn't
as
the
a
Groundlings.
as a like a show to come in and watch, it's like, yeah. Groundlings has always been that way, It's just big big epic characters and band and loud and lighting and shows that are probably a little bit too long. Little too
I
long.
think there must have been like 16 acts in that.
They were, yeah, I think 14,
Okay.
but with an improv or something probably. Yeah. It's
Another really funny one was, it was so out there, man. I don't think you were on stage for this one. The dude was like a piece of bacon that got thrown out of the salad.
That's Laird. That's
It's
Laird.
hilarious.
Laird
I'm
is
so
wild,
cold.
man.
I'm freezing.
Help me.
Yeah, that shit was hilarious.
I'm gonna tell him he said that. He'll be very happy. His mind is insane. His mind is insane. insane. I can't even, I mean, the things I've seen him write over the years. I went through a lot of the program with him, so I've seen him, and we've gotten very close over the years, and he's wild. He is wild. He'll be like,
He could definitely do no other job. I'm assuming.
oh, no way. I mean, yeah. Although sometimes he's like, I have to go to Europe and help Steven Spielberg with military consultation on a film, because he knows everything
Oh,
about.
is he ex-military?
He's not. He just happens to
He
know
just watched Saving
everything.
Private Ryan 100
Although
times.
we always joke at the Groundlings, we're like, when shit goes down, when it's a zombie apocalypse, when it's any apocalypse, we got to get to Laird's, because we know he's got like some sort of basement full of like beans and Uzis, and like
Ready
we'll
to
be
go.
safe for at least a couple of years.
Well,
No,
with that
he's
being
wild.
said, if there was a zombie apocalypse,
Yeah.
realistically, I really want you to register this. What would your first step be in LA right now?
I mean, but the first thing on my mind would be my kids, and
Ditch him.
I'd get rid of them and use them as bait. No, I mean, I have a friend back in Maine who's always like, you got to get a gun, you got to get a dog. And I'm like, "Ugh, if stuff goes south, I think like I'm gonna, I got a billy club and that's about it.
You have a billy club?
I keep a billy club under my bed. Yeah. Or
A billy club.
yeah. But I keep a billy club under my bed, and I keep a aluminum bat behind the door, which I have had to use. Not
why
on
do you have a
anyone.
billy club?
Billy club is just something I've had for years. I think I bought it like into. I mean, we're in LA and I'm in the suburbs. I'm out in Lake Balboa, and there's not just like, I've had people come to my door and be a little bit weird, and I'll just keep it like behind my back, because I don't want to ever be in a situation where somebody, like, people will push through doors. You read about it all the time.
That's
and
just such a gruesome thing. So you just want to billy club
I'd
an
go
intruder.
I'd go knees. I don't think I'd slap head. I'd go knees, but I would put them out with knees. And then when I walk my dog, I'll carry it, because there's coyotes.
So you're gonna hack down the coyotes with the
No,
billy
I'm
club.
gonna send my dog towards the coyote, and then I'm gonna club the coyote in the head.
Have you ever used the billy club?
No,
Okay.
no, but I would.
I don't think it's a very effective way to defend yourself.
Oh, I think
It's very short range, man.
right, but usually if you're getting attacked, you're in short range.
But why
And-
don't you just get a bow and arrow in that
and
case?
it's because they're illegal. I
Bow
mean, a
and
billy
arrow
club is legal too, but you can't carry a bow and arrow around. Like, also the loading
I
of a
think you
bow
probably
and
carry
arrow.
around Los Feliz. You probably
You,
don't
well,
wanna
you
fit-
could, but I think it's also a deterrent. Like, the one time I've used it without using it was a guy in the middle of the day. I see this guy at my front door, and he's got no shoes on. I think he was a homeless guy, and I see him just trying to open my front door, and I have an Irish temper for sure. So
I'm
I'm
picking up
like,
on that.
yeah, I go. I'm like looking through this window, and it's like a weird stained glass window, so I can only sort of see somebody. And I'm like, it's Billy Club time. It's Billy Club time. So I I picked up the club, and I swung that door open like a maniac. And I think he shit his pants, and he jumped back, and I was like, "Can I help you, dude?" And he was like, oh, I'm looking for my friend. And I was like, who? And he was like, I don't know. And I was like, were you trying to break into my fucking house?
Because I got a billy club.
Because
motherfucker.
I got a billy club, and I'm about to destroy your knees. No. And he goes, no, dude, my friend told me they lived here, and I just took my hand and I covered up my address thing on the side of the house. And I go, what address is it? What address? And he's like, I don't know, man. And I was like, I'm counting to 10. Run, get out of here. 10, 9, 8. And the guy, I will give him credit, because he turned around and sprinted away like a.
So what were his intentions? He's trying to break in?
We've had like a lot of break-ins in the neighborhood where
Really?
during the day, like, I'm an actor, so I'm home during the day, but
Mhm.
I think people will just go up and test doors, and if they can go in quickly and grab something, They'll get in and out, and that's
LA's
it.
like a video game, man.
It's
Wild.
absolutely. You got to get yourself a billy club.
I'm thinking of getting myself like 2 maces. You know what I'm
I
saying?
mean, that would be very intimidating if you show up at the door with 2 maces and you're like, "Can I help you?"
He's giving us a 5-minute warning here. Just
All
want to
right.
ask you 2 things.
Yeah.
One, I actually have 3 things. One, how do you get the call to be on the Last O.G?
That was sort of insane. I had a pilot season where I tested for, I think, 4 shows, meaning I had gone through an audition, I had gone back for a producer, and then they give you a test contract where you basically sign off what if they decide to take you for a show. This is the agreement on payment and all the terms. Um, I'm assuming you know what testing is, but it's the last it's the last audition before they book you for a TV show. Um, so I had done 4 of them and gotten turned down on all of them. They had gone with another choice on all of them, and I was down about it because I'm like, Jesus Christ. So my agent calls and was like, why don't you go for this? I had said no, that I don't want to do the Tracy Morgan audition. It didn't feel like the right fit. Even the way they had described it in the breakdown, it was all about being like a rock star, for a tatted up rock star. And I was like, that's not me. I'm not going to get this part. He was like, just go. And I went, and I was out of my mind. I didn't care. I was just like, I, I memorized it. It was like 3 pages but I sort of was real loose with it. And I went in, sat down no further than I am from you. And I read through this thing with the casting director. She was blasé about it. She was like, okay, do you want to do it again? And I was like, I'm good if you're good. And she was like, okay, thanks. And I was left, never thought a thing about it. And like a week later, they were like, oh, they really liked your audition, Ryan. That was great. And I was like, really? I don't even remember what I did. And they were like, day after that, they were like, oh, they're going to test you for this part. And I was like, what? I, I don't know what I did. I don't know. I don't even remember if like what I did with the script. And I was trying to dig up, so I'll keep my scripts and any notes. And I didn't have one note on that script because I just flew
Didn't
by
give a
the,
fuck.
no. And he was like, yeah, it doesn't matter. It's okay. They're going to just use your tape as the test. And I was like, what? And then 2 days later, they were like, yeah, you're booked. You're going to New York in like a month to shoot this for 3 or 4 months. And I
You were
was like,
just an alpha.
I honestly, it was such a lesson of don't, when you try too hard, like you got to let go.
Mm-hmm.
You got to let go and just do what's authentically you. Cause that's what I did in that audition. I was like, I didn't care about what they were asking for. I had to show them like who I am and what I would do in the part. And that was it.
And what was it like being on that show?
It was I mean,
Because that's
it,
TBS.
it was wild. It was, I mean, crazy hanging out with Tracy Morgan and Tiffany Haddish all day long. It's really pretty wild. And for doing it, lucky enough to do it for 4 seasons, I'm like, it definitely changed my life. And, I got to know New York City. I'd never lived in New York City. I got to know
Speed.
that. It was crazy. It was crazy. It was humid as hell. I was pitting out all over the place.
Pitting out.
Pitting out.
Unfamiliar.
Pitting. Sweat pitting.
Oh, sweat perspiring.
Yeah.
Okay. Understood.
You've never heard the term pitting out?
It's very Maine of you.
Yeah.
Pitting
Pitting out. Pitting out all summer long. No, it gets so humid there. I mean, it's humid in Boston sometimes too, but New York City, whew.
I
I'd be
prefer
like,
LA over New York. I feel like every time I'm in New York, I
oh,
got a damn ear infection.
100%. I was always happy to leave. Always happy. It smells.
You
It's
were
gross.
pitting out.
I was pitting out all over the place. But the cliche of the New York actor versus the LA actor, it's so clear to me now. And I'm like, I don't consider myself either, but I'm like, because I haven't trained like most New York actors. You talk to a New York actor and they're always like, Tish, or were you
Oh, okay, I
like,
understand.
were you? And it's like,
There's
I
an
get
air
it,
of
dude.
affluence. with the Juilliard
Yes.
folk.
Yes.
But
And
you're
it's
a
like
street demon.
I'm born and raised on the streets of acting. Yeah. And
In Dershot, Maine,
and probably
for
not
the
as good. Probably not as good as they are. But you know what? It's all right.
No one likes
I got
someone
instincts.
too smart anyway, man.
Yeah. I mean, the number of people spend hundreds of $1,000s on an acting school and then never work a job. I'm like, I'm glad that I just came out and
Hustled.
learned from like the Groundlings and learned from acting
That fat
coaches.
dude you used to work with.
That fat dude in the phone conferencing center, he taught me a lot. He did teach me. I think somebody planted him in my life to be like, all right,
This could be you.
go put a little fire in Ryan's belly. And
Or like, if you keep doing this, this is what you're
yeah,
gonna end up
you
like.
will be this guy. Doritos, crunch, crunch, crunch.
Nasty. All right, I got to wrap it up, Alex. I don't want to kill you here.
Nope.
2 things, real quick. Is there anything you're promoting? Because I'll cut you up a clip.
No, I mean, all the seasons of Last O.G are on HBO Max, so you can rip into those. Anybody that hasn't seen it, it's a funny show. It's a heartfelt show. It's, it's for all ages and pretty relevant right now in what's happening in the world with everything. So it's a good show. And then other than that, go by, if you're in LA, go by the Groundlings Theater, because as you know, it's a fun night out and it's not too expensive and you get to see some really quality comedy there.
Agreed. I was also watching all your clips on, is it Bajillionaires? Is that what it's called?
Oh yeah, bajillionaires.
There was one thing fucking hilarious
Dude.
line. You were like, yeah, no, we lost my dad less than a decade ago, a year ago.
Yeah.
That shit was hilarious.
Dude, that's with Ben Schwartz and Drew Tarver, and that is one of my favorite moments on that show ever. That's a great one. If you really if you're a comedy guy, I'm not just saying this because I was on the show, go watch Bajillion Dollar Properties. I think you can watch them all for free on Pluto, and it's from beginning to end, it is one of the funniest shows you'll ever see.
I agree. I thought the clips I was seeing were
Yeah.
riotlessly funny. Now, this is how we start and end the episode.
Okay.
I'm going to say it once. You're an actor. You should be able to execute on this. If you don't, I'm not going to repeat myself, man.
Not from Tish, so I don't know if
It's
how
okay.
this is going to go.
All right. So you got to say hi, your name,
Yep.
and this is my golden hour. Directly after No Break, hi, your name, and that was my golden hour.
I have to say, hi, I'm Ryan Gaul, and this is my golden hour. Right?
And then,
Oh, I didn't catch the last part.
bro, hi, I'm Ryan Gaul, and this is my golden hour. Hi, I'm Ryan Gaul, and that was my golden hour. This is
Got
that
it.
was.
And just for audio, I don't have to look at the camera.
I was late to the camera.
Oh,
This is how we're gonna cut this up, put this right at the front.
got it. Hi, I'm Ryan Gaul, and this is my golden hour. Hi, I'm Ryan Gaul. That was my golden hour.
Well executed, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, Alex.
Glad
Thank
to
you,
be
man.
here. Thanks, Alex.